You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't.
On today's guest episode, we have our longtime friend and soon-to-be yours, Mr. Rodney Lee. The North City native, music lover, and newly turned singer-songwriter. Rodney was a longtime general manager and talent booker at Barley's Knoxville. A quiet gentleman who deserves a lot of thanks from all our local performers and many other regional artists. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rodney Lee.
So, one of the biggest things about it is we've known each other so long. All the guests have known each other for so long, and never got to sit down and have any kind of real conversation. You either have a show conversation, which is one way. You either have a bar conversation, which is one way.
Yep.
Then you got 14 people always tugging at you when you're out in public. It's like when you want to go on a date or something. It's like, I don't want to go downtown. I'd rather go somewhere where nobody kind of might not know me, or at least it'd be minimal. Yep. And I could have an opportunity to get to actually talk. So, I didn't ever want to ask you out on a date, so I thought, well, let's do a podcast and have Rodney Lee on it. Because I'm not quite that lonely yet.
Right.
And, but hey,
winter's coming.
I mean, I can be had every now and then, So, if you didn't guess, everybody, our guest this week is longtime friend, Mr. Rodney Lee. Welcome to Mascot and to the Honky Tonks. So
appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Glad to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. Rodney over the years has kept me in some Schlitz memorabilia and kept me working and employed as a singer and as a songwriter and a leader of a band and all that stuff. And like I was saying, we'll get into all that. How you been? You been all right?
I've been doing pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah?
Can't complain too much. I just got back from Texas doing a little work out there, and it reminds me that I'd much rather be in Tennessee than Texas.
Where at in Texas were you?
I was near Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big city.
Yeah. Don't love that.
No. I tell you what I do love about Dallas, though. Is all those flyovers with the roads.
Yeah.
They don't worry about cutting no damn hill. They just build something out of concrete over top of everything.
Yeah.
Say, oh, you want to go west? Here you go. You want to go east? Put some concrete over there.
Yeah.
Sir, it's 437 feet. That's all right. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Support it. So, what kind of work have you been doing?
I've been doing audio-visual installation, whole home audio, home theater, mostly residential, some commercial. We're probably 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a client that we've known from Knoxville, and he's moved to Texas and is building a new house and wanted some work done. We headed out.
Right.
Spent the week doing it.
Well, good. Yeah, man, Texas is definitely a different animal. It's like 4 states in one, from North Texas to South to East and West Texas. All of it's different.
That's what I hear. I've only gotten to spend a little time in San Antonio and then Dallas.
Yeah.
And those two are definitely different.
Yeah.
San Antonio is the hottest damn place in America. I'm telling you right now. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I forgot how much I appreciate that we have humidity here. Like mostly I spend time bitching about how damn humid it is. Go somewhere where it's dry and just standing there, you start getting dehydrated. It's like, oh yeah. So that's been, I'll curb some of my criticism for humidity in August next year.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that way after coming back from like Southwest Louisiana or Mississippi. It was like, Jesus Christ Almighty. Heaven. Days.
Yeah.
It'd be midnight and it'd be 90.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, at least we get a little bit of relief from it for a little while, you know. I think that's the bad part with the heat and the humidity is when you don't get to run, you get no relief.
Yeah.
It just stays that way constant. But, and I also do appreciate the fact that, you know, like today, beautiful bluebird skies, probably 50% humidity. I mean, you know, a nice temperature, a little breeze, you know, everything that we actually get 4 complete seasons, which a lot of the other country is not. They get them, but they just don't get them as long as we get them.
Right.
You know,
we definitely get a nice balance of
it. I think so. Which I think, I don't know. Everybody, I guess you always say that as you get older, or I've heard people say it as they get older, but they'll say something like, you know, well, didn't it seem summer lasted longer?
Right.
Or
every year.
We ain't had no winter this year or something to, you know, one of those isms that people do.
Yeah.
But, getting back to the whole shooting match there, you know, I don't know. I knew you were from Lenoir City and born and raised there.
Yep.
And then so went to school there and everything. What did a young Rodney do at an early age in Lenoir City?
Well,
besides sit around and tear the wings off of flies and watch apples grow.
We certainly didn't have a lot of culture there. So that was the mid to late 90s. And, you know, there was a lot of the extreme culture. The X Games had started and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So me and my friends were inline skaters. Which is just another really fancy way for saying I'm going to blow my knee out at a young age.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then outside of that, I was in the high school marching band, so I was always around music in that way.
I see. I don't think I realized that.
Yeah. I'm a recovering trombone player.
Okay. All right.
There's a couple of us out there in the world. And then pretty quickly got out of Loudoun County. I've lived in Knox County longer now than I lived in Loudoun County. As soon as I turned 18, I moved to Knox County.
What brought that along? Just time to go, or you were
looking for different work?
Right.
You know, there were hardly a sit down chain restaurant in Lenoir City.
Right.
And so I just slowly started working my way. I worked at Little Joe's Pizza there at the Junction for a good bit of years.
Uh-huh.
And then I moved on up a little further into Farragut and started working at Aubrey's. And then it just facilitated that I was living in Knoxville at that point.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you just get into working in the restaurant business because, or you didn't want to go to the plant, or, you know, I mean, I can't imagine there's still a lot of,
there wasn't
a lot of jobs there. I mean, it seems like people are always traveling to and from.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of
our rural areas here.
Opportunity there in general. And
Yeah.
then I just found my way into restaurants. I started working a little local mom and pop drive-in when I was 14.
Okay.
And so, And it seems like the thing with restaurant industry is once you're in it, you just stay in it.
Yeah.
Because it becomes a lifestyle, not just your job. You know, your friends are based around it. Your nightlife is based around it. Everything. And it just...
It's a good point. I never really thought about it that way. I worked in the restaurant business for probably one of my first, well, no, that's not right. High school job for sure. But I was at Luca Pizza over at Easttown Mall and made pizzas for a long time over there, and just was kind of like, yeah, it's all right.
Which is now Lydia's in Powell.
In Powell, off of, what is that, Callahan.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a whole nother crazy part, but in story. Fun story, though. Yeah, I guess I could see that because you're there.
Yeah.
And if you're there, and they're there, everybody's there. So
yeah, then you're hanging out after work.
And
and it's hard to get out of that culture once you're in it. And then once you do finally get out of that culture, like it was a real eye opener for me just a few years ago to leave the restaurant business. It was like divorcing most of your family.
Right.
Like you just didn't run in the same circles anymore. And a lot of those friendships, I guess, were based in convenience. You're around each other, so you're friends.
Yeah.
You're not around each other as much. The friendships don't necessarily hold up.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting to see those things. And then, look back on all your situations with better eyesight. So
yeah, for sure.
You're able to see some of those things a little better.
Yeah. Well, so when did you, because that's where I met you, was in the restaurant business. And I guess, I don't know, I think you were probably bar backing back then. Was you a waiter back then?
I was a manager.
You just kicking people out back then?
Yeah, I was a manager. When I came to Barley's, I'd been managing at Aubrey's about 8 months or so.
Okay.
And he was like, hey, I got this place. You could do a couple days down there and a couple of days here. And for a while, I split time between places. And then it became evident that my lifestyle, my nightlife just worked well with Barley's hours. So he just left me down there. And
he being
Randy Burleson. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was down there 18 years.
Wow.
As a manager and then as the general manager for about 10 of those.
Okay. I didn't really get to know, I can't remember really. I'm horrible with dates. Those people who can just recall that, July 12th, and I'm like,
well, what? I can help you with this.
Okay, good. I need all the help I can get.
When I got down there, and that was in 01, late 01,
okay,
02, we were sponsoring a show with WDVX called Behind the Barn.
That's right, yeah.
And that was Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
I worked every Wednesday night, and that is where I first met you.
I was there every Wednesday night.
Every damned Wednesday night.
Yeah.
You and that dude with the big handlebar mustache. I can't remember his name.
Richard Dial.
That's
affectionately known as Fred by everyone.
Yeah.
I introduced him as Fred for about 2 years. And he finally looked at me and goes, you realize my name's Richard, right? And I was like, sure, Fred.
Maybe that's why I never remember his name.
Yeah, it could be. I always felt bad about it, but he was such a good sport that it just caught on. I mean, he's in my phone as Fred right now, you know. Oh, great guy. A great dude. Those are some great times.
They really were.
Yeah, I was down there because of I was friends with Jeff and Sarah, who were hosting the show, and booking I guess they were booking the guests as well at that point, and seen a bunch of acts, man, a lot of really big stuff, even while they were either still big or before they made it big, you know. I remember some of the fun ones were the folks that you didn't know anything about, and then they just came in and was like a force.
Yeah.
It was just like, holy cow, these, oh yeah, this guy wrote, what the hell ever, and 13 different songs you've heard in 63 movies, soundtracks, and at every football game in the world. And it's just like, oh, wow, really? What?
Yeah, we definitely had some good ones come through. And then the unexpected ones that were always a nice surprise. And then we had some of those that were supposed to be greats, and they'd come through and fucking mail that thing in for the night.
Who was well, just back then, since we're in that era, who was one of your, maybe a surprise, maybe a favorite or a most memorable, and then the biggest pain in the ass?
Boy, I hate to talk.
Fuck them. Talk about them.
Yeah.
No, just whatever you want to do.
One of the biggest pain in the ass is, I think her name is Mindy Smith.
I remember that name.
I know Mindy Smith.
And
school with her.
Okay.
And she
went to Carter?
No, she went to Pellissippi.
Oh, okay.
She had just done the thing with Dolly. I guess she had re-released Jolene or something. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, she was...
That's why I reckon. Okay.
She was riding high, and they came in as part of the DVX deal and wouldn't take the stage until they got paid. And, that's pretty uncommon, unless you're James Brown. Show up with a sack of cash before I take the
Jerry
stage.
Lee Lewis or Chuck Berry.
But that was probably one of the biggest pain in the asses that I had ever had to experience there.
You think it was because they were? I mean, obviously this is just speculation, but it had to be like one of three things. They were either just so new, or they'd had a bad experience, or they're just pricks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Or a combination thereof.
Or a combination, yeah. I mean, because I've had to pull that one before when I felt uneasy. Certainly not at Barley's or any place around here, but any rate.
Yeah, I'm not real sure what that one was. And from that time period, that's really about the only memorable one that stands out as maybe I have a hold up in my memory where I remember the bad ones. I don't remember all the good ones.
Well, you don't ever forget an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah, you got that right.
I mean, I've never forgotten one. I mean, what are you laughing at?
You looked at me, dickhead.
Well, you're sitting here. I mean, dun dun dun.
Proximity.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's that. I was trying to remember somebody that really stood out to me seeing them down there for the first time. I was real big in the traditional world of bluegrass and country music back then. And I didn't know a lot about none of the rest of the stuff.
Right.
And I remembered, who was that? Well, I remember a real memorable one was I can't remember if it wasn't like Newgrass Revival, but it was, it was those types of musicians, those types of players. John Cowan was fronting and leading the thing that night. And so that's when I kind of heard the marriage of electric and acoustic, and then somebody with that powerful of a voice. And I remember thinking, wow, that's pretty. Whoa.
Yeah.
What did I just see here, on that?
It was a really interesting time in the music scene in general because you were having some more of that crossover.
Yeah.
And And the diversity of the music that was coming through was so broad.
Yeah.
That time. It's definitely pigeonholed itself down a little bit, but it was an exciting time in the music scene. That early 2000s into the mid 2000s, people were experimenting a lot more with their live shows. So
I remember one of the bluegrass shows that was really, really entertaining, and those guys, they were good. I can't say they weren't good, and they were especially really, I guess if this makes sense, they were more good at what they did versus, you wouldn't say that guy was a virtuoso of a singer or even a musician for that matter. Now, some of the band members, but Carl Shiflett and the Big Country Show, do you remember that? Did you ever see them or hear of them, Jamie?
No.
This guy was, total two-tone wingtip shoes, short ties, dressed like they did in 47.
Yep.
And I mean, the thumb pick, the Lester Flat G run, everything. And they worked the one mic thing. And that was kind of back in bluegrass. I don't think Dale was doing, Dale McCurry, I don't think he had started doing it yet, but Doyle Lawson was doing it a lot.
What, the one mic thing?
With the one mic thing.
Yeah.
And then he came along.
Coming back to it, you mean?
Yeah, and he came along, but man, what a choreographed show.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty incredible.
If I'm not mistaken, his son was part of the band.
Maybe.
And his son was one of the only musicians I've ever had to ask to leave the bar.
Really?
Yeah. He was going real hard and not on anything we sold.
Oh, I see. Uh-huh.
But I do remember that because they actually, when they booked that show, they also sent out headshots, like you would have seen, like Willie Nelson's, 1940 or 1950 headshot where he's all clean cut. Like those boys were sending those as their promo booking stuff.
Yeah.
They were true authentic all the way. Like that's the way they saw the world.
Yeah, I guess if you remember that too, it was, back in those days, there wasn't electronic press kits. There was the folder and you sent the cassette and the whole deal. It was old school. That's funny. I remembered they had a really good banjo player named Jake something. And I can't remember his name, but he was really freaking good. And he played he kind of played like Don Reno. Never used a capo, know. So the guy was, first of all, he's a fucking genius,
right?
to be able to do that and that style of music. But yeah, I remembered him out of that. And then they had a mandolin player, big old boy.
Yeah.
And played this little A-style mandolin. And it looked about like a little, holding a little bedroom fan with a broomstick at the end of it, But behind the barn was some good times. Some real good times. Guess who I ran into the other day?
Oh no!
And I hadn't seen him in years. Jeff Schaefnacher. Now he was one that was always there. Always there. And this is going to be a big shocker. I don't know if you've seen him or talked to him lately, but he didn't have on a white V-neck T-shirt.
No shit.
I have known that guy for as long as I've known you.
Yeah.
And I've never seen him in anything other than a pair of Doc Martens, blue jeans, and a white V-neck T-shirt.
Absolutely.
He had a maroon V-neck T-shirt.
Oh, he's switching it up on you.
Yes, so he's living. I said, "Well, you're living on the edge, man."
That's that fall outfit he broke out.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But I guess he's doing really good. He's with Three Bears Coffee. He's opened up his own coffee roasting, and
evidently
has found a great niche in it. He seems like he's just as happy as ever.
Yeah, it had been a while since I'd seen him. There was a big span where I hadn't ran into him, and then the next time I saw him, it was like you said, like he was in a time capsule.
Yeah,
he was exactly the same dude.
Looked, not a gray hair.
Yeah,
nothing.
Yeah,
I mean, looked just like he did.
Yeah,
back in those days. I met lots of really cool people back in those days down there. Yourself, and some of the old heads that worked down there. You know, I mean, Marshall and he was a little later, but his wife Amanda,
she was always
there. Such a sweetheart. I was trying to think. I guess Amy Knight was working there at the time. She was a waitress there at one stretch. Yeah, good times, man. Spicoli. Spinoza.
Yep.
And
Natalie. She's down at Corner Lounge now.
Yeah. Yeah. And who was there was a couple of the patrons there. Brandon Rapp.
Oh yeah. You can still find him sitting at the bar today.
Yeah. I just sent him some vulgar texts about the Phillies and their light blue uniforms the other night, and how they snowballed Santa Claus, and nobody should like Philadelphia. And he was just like, "You got to get over that, man."
Can't let some things go.
Oh, mercy. Yeah. So you were actually managing back then.
Yeah. I was indeed.
Well, we fast forward a little bit. How long it seems like Behind the Barn, it ran 7 or 8 years, didn't it?
It did. Well, maybe.
I mean, it was a long while.
It was. And I always really appreciated the programming, but like a lot of things in nonprofit, they keep asking for more and don't provide any more service. And some relationships broke down, and we ended up canceling that particular programming and going a different direction.
I think I remember the night. I mean, we don't have to get into it, but
yeah,
but yeah,
it's never a good idea to sponsor a show across the street from a place that you're sponsoring a show at. Yeah, it's just in my opinion.
Yeah,
on the same night.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah,
it just don't add up, and sometimes. But people do it all the time. I mean, not necessarily that, but you forget about old steady, old reliable.
Yep.
And you see this new shiny bright penny or this new shiny horse that's just entered the race, and let's put everything on black. Let's put everything on red 17, 16, and
grass is hardly ever greener.
Yeah.
It looks it, but it's not.
Yeah, for sure.
But much love to DVX. Always have enjoyed their programming and what they try to do in the community. So we eventually repaired relationships and did some more sponsorship stuff with them.
I was getting ready to say that happened while you were there.
While I was still there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, crazy things you've seen, I'm sure.
Oh,
being in the late night.
I should have written a book at some point, but
it's not too late.
It's not too late. I'm starting to forget some of my better stories, however, but I've seen it all. Saw a guy fall from the second floor. He was trying to slide down the balcony.
Oh God.
And he fell off backwards and landed in a bunch of upside down chairs.
Oh, fuck.
And was out. So the EMTs show up and flip him over and have to resuscitate him and take him to the hospital. And that was Saturday night. And I get up Sunday morning and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go over to the hospital and check on this dude. I get over there and they've just released him. And so I was like, all right, well, now I'll go down to Barley's and check on him and see how everything was down there. And he had already showed up and tried to come in and order a beer. His house shoes were still there.
Oh my God.
It's like, man, you just died in the foyer less than 12 hours ago. Maybe don't come back so soon.
It's Miller time.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, there's definitely been
I never heard that one.
Yeah. We've had some fun loving ones and we've had some oh shit ones and
yeah.
The old city was a different place back then too.
Yeah. Yeah. It was yeah, I guess it was. I don't know if I don't know. Elaborate. Because I'm just thinking
they put an awful lot of shine on the old city.
Yeah.
It was a lot scruffier, if you like that word.
Yeah.
Back in those days, and Barley's was a destination at the end of the old city.
Right. That's true.
Now you've got, a nice little. You've got 2 reservation style restaurants in the old city. A lot of new development occurring in some of the buildings. And so there's just a little more polish has come along, and several more restaurants had added over the years, which those things are good. Having the Jig and Reel, another music venue in the old city, was great. But bringing those things slowly coming in and you're trying to polish up some of that scruffiness. And it was different.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I didn't think about it that way, but it was basically back then it was Barley's and, whatever the week it was, the place next door or across the street was going to be. It changed about every third week. It seemed like.
Sure did. They had to put a new name on it, new business license.
Yeah. And, of course, the Pilot Light.
Yeah. Rock steady down there for sure.
Yeah. Which I remember the first time I ever went in the Pilot Light.
Yeah.
And that was pretty fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I think we all remember the first time we went into Pilot Light.
Well, the Rude Street Peters were playing.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just another level.
A total another level. I can't even.
Total fucking another level.
There were probably people hanging from the rafters in there.
Oh, man. I took 2 good old boys straight out of Maynardville. And both of them looked like Paul Bunyan's nephews. If you'd have seen 2 blue oxes sitting outside at the pay meters, you'd been like, oh, Floyd and Bill's here.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it. And one of the guys who sang or played in the band were big bluegrass fans, and they liked us, and we all played together in bluegrass. And they were like, yeah, you got to come out and see one of our shows. And, there was a mosh and everything was going on. And, one of them looked at me and said, that sumbitch right there comes over here and starts jumping and all that. She said, I'm fucking laying him out. And I'm like, oh God, and he'll do it.
Yeah.
We're all going to go to jail and die. Because they just didn't understand.
Right.
Yeah. So the Pilot Light, and I guess Big Don's was still there.
Yeah.
And but that's about it. I mean, Sullivan's.
You had Sullivan's, Lucille's on the back there.
Yeah. And it was still Lucille's at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there was. You're right. There's a lot of shine. Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know.
Manhattan's was there, right?
Yeah.
For a minute, but then Manhattan's shut down pretty. guess I don't quite recall when Manhattan shut down, but it wasn't vacant long, and then they got the jig and reel in there, so that was good.
Well, it was open until at least 2010.
Okay.
Because Shannon Stanfield, Clint Clinton died in 10, and they had a little thing there for him.
Okay.
And I was at that. So it was after there. It's been gone probably 12 years, I guess.
Yeah.
And the jig's been there 10 years.
Yeah.
A good, I don't know. It seems like it's been there at this point. It's been there long enough that it's just always
what
been there.
Was there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but not as long as Manhattan's was there.
True.
Because Manhattan's was there 95 on.
Yeah.
Something like that. So it was there going on almost 18 years.
Yeah.
And so growing up in Lenoir City, that was the only other thing I ever did was come to the old city. So I was not old enough to get into clubs, but I would come down and hang out on the street because there were people busking.
Yeah.
And that's where my friends were hanging out. So the early 90s, you had clubs like the Underground and the Boiler Room. Not quite my scene, but the only places that I could get out and go at that point.
Right.
So I've been hanging out in the dang old city since the mid 90s for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, mine didn't happen. Let's see. I was up there for 2001. Yeah. I probably didn't start coming down there until, I don't know, probably Behind the Barn hadn't been going too long.
Yeah.
It was about that time because I had been everywhere I was going south, going to the mountains, and playing music and stuff up there. So I didn't know anybody or anything down here. Jeff and Sarah would call me up to sing a song every now and then, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I didn't have any idea on how to, pitch yourself not like that. I guess it didn't, I guess I've done okay, but it just seemed like that was the hardest thing in the world to do. Talk to somebody to let me come play music in your shitty club.
Right.
And it's still that hard sometimes,
It's not hard if you want to play for free.
Well, no, that's true.
That is true.
And of course, the old thing is you can play for the exposure.
Oh, yeah.
But you'll get exposure.
Yeah.
Like people die of exposure.
They sure do. Lots of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So during this whole time you were down there, where obviously you had experience in high school band, and I'm sure you were a music lover as well. Were you playing or doing anything at that time on your own?
Not really. I had, over the course of my life, picked up and set down guitar half a dozen times. I'd play a while and then get discouraged. I was never very good. I was always really good at building community for other folks, but finding my own community of musicians, I just always struggled. And so I would get discouraged and put guitar down and then come back to it years later.
How did that change?
Well, I got, I guess that was, now I'm going to struggle with some years a little bit. It's like 18 or 19, and Randy Burleson was selling Barley's to the Boyds, and I elected to stay with Randy in the restaurant business and not stay at Barley's. And so then I suddenly found myself with no music community. I wasn't around live music anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I guess I'm just really going to have to make this thing a go. And I had picked up guitar again and been playing for maybe 2 or 3 years at that point. I'd taken a couple of lessons and was trying to really go at it. And then it just was like, all right, well, if I want to be around live music, I'm not booking it or promoting it anymore. I guess I'm just going to have to like start hiring musicians to be around me and go play some shows.
Yeah. Well, that's, yeah. I mean, sometimes you just have to, I could see how that could happen, because you were such a, for those who don't know, you were such a staple for, many people's career through that time. And mine certainly is, not an exception to that. It was so refreshing to know, and it took years to finally get to the point where, but I could always call and get a show. It may not have always been on the night I wanted it, or something, but in the end, of course, that kind of started as we started getting better and started drawing more, and I feel personally, and I know you did it out of love and respect, but I feel like a lot of us old heads, you deserve a lot of the credit, and I thank you for it. So,
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Always wanted to support the local scene because in an organic fashion, if you support the people in your town, when they go out on the road, they're going to meet bands.
Yeah.
And when those bands come to our town, they're going to need a place to play. And so you just start building this nice local regional community at this point. And so you're out there with your exposure, bringing me bands that I maybe wouldn't have heard of, and I respected those local musicians' opinions to say, if they're coming to me saying, no, these guys should be playing here, I trust that.
Yeah.
So it really helped us build it up together.
Yeah. Is there anybody you can recall that came to you that way? That was I don't know how else to put it, but like that pleasant surprise, or somebody that you became a fan of, or not necessarily just had a good show that night, or or did you just secretly not like anyone?
I liked them all. That was the thing, is I just love live music. It's hard for me to be in a venue with live music and not be entertained. Now, there's some stuff that just not my cup of tea, but I can still appreciate. But there's been a ton of them that have come through that that some were recommended by local musicians, and some of it was relationships with booking agents, and
well, maybe some that didn't maybe just necessarily fit those parameters. Maybe just some of the ones that you remember that you were just like, man.
There was a group out of Nashville. I think they were originally from Texas, and they actually came down and did like a Tuesday residency. And they did like 6 weeks. They were driving over from Nashville. They were called the Wild Feathers. And they went on to do a little bit. They opened up some shows for Paul Simon. And
oh, wow.
They put out 4 or 5 albums. They're still together out in Nashville doing a thing.
Okay.
And building that relationship was a lot of fun. And when I built that relationship, they recommended these other dudes. And then they recommended these other dudes.
Right.
So the next thing I know, we've got Shovels and Rope on our stage.
Right.
Based on these recommendations from other bands.
Yeah.
And so we've been really fortunate in that way we always treated the musicians right. And so when their buddies would call them up and be like, have you ever heard of this pizza place in Knoxville? Mm-hmm. We at least had a good recommendation.
Well, you kind of, I always felt like I kind of wanted to be that guy in town. And I'm imagining it'd be the same way with being the venue spot in town, that like, if you know people that are coming through and you've met somebody out and you've had a killer show or you've made a relationship and somebody says, well, yeah, we were thinking about going over to Asheville this weekend, or something. And they're like, well, you'll be going through Knoxville. You should check out, you should get in touch with this guy.
Yeah.
Or you should get in touch with this venue, and I always felt good about that and got I got a few bands gigs like that.
Yeah.
So I could see that business is business at that point, whether you're an individual or you're a venue, that's beneficial.
Absolutely.
And makes things happen. So you were there for all that time, and then you had some scary health issues.
Yeah, I did.
Which was like, I would have never.
You and me both. But yeah, I was 39 and had a massive heart attack at work one morning. They had to put me in the ambulance and take me over to the hospital, do a little emergency cath lab situation where they had to revive me on the table. And I remember all of it, like very clearly.
Merely a flesh wound.
Yeah. I'm making jokes and
get your hands off me,
cracking jokes with them and asking them questions. And at one point I started singing Eastbound and Down to them. They had to ask me if I could just be quiet for a few more minutes. But at the end of it, they were like, man, just so you know, I've been doing this a long time, and you're hands down the calmest heart attack patient that we've ever had. And I was like, cool. Could I get like a plaque or something that says that? Like that's a crowning achievement.
Absolutely. I mean,
and so that really changed some stuff too. That
I was getting ready to say, yeah.
Like there's all sorts of platitudes that you can talk about, like my second chance at life or all of these things. And really, it's not so much that as it just changed my outlook, that a lot of the things that I'd cared so much about or fought so hard for, it just really didn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
So like life became a little easier and I could give less shits about some things and care more about the other things.
Right.
The relationships and things that were actually important, which was another part of like, I really enjoy doing music. So I'm going to do that differently now too. So it just gave me an opportunity to be like, I just want to do things differently.
Yeah. Did you get real emotional afterward? I mean, like not afterwards, but, because I've heard, I know my dad had a heart attack and he was, I don't know, maybe that's the emotional side you're explaining, right, is the whole different outlook.
Yeah. I've talked to other folks who've had heart attacks and there is a change in personality.
Yeah.
And sometimes they become harsher. Sometimes they become really loving. And for me, it was just really eye opening. And I guess that I had been, to a lot of folks in town, I had been rigid, especially some of the vendors and the folks that we had to work with. I'd been, in their opinions, rigid. And I apparently was a lot more easygoing with them afterwards. And that to me was just the true attitude change of like, some of this shit just doesn't matter anymore, So that was probably the biggest part for me.
Right. That's interesting.
I will say the other people around me were very emotional. I had lots of folks reach out that I wouldn't have expected to reach out to me to let me know how much I meant to them and how happy they were that I survived, and like were truly sobbingly emotional. And I was like, I would have never thunk it from you, but all right, man.
Yeah. Well, you were a part of a lot of, I mean, and still are part of a lot of people's lives. Do you miss the restaurant business?
I miss the relationships.
You want to buy a pizza shop?
I do not want to buy a pizza shop.
Okay.
Good call.
Yeah.
I can tell you all about that.
I can't ever imagine owning my own business either at this point. Like it's such a headache to just, it's just headaches that I just don't want.
Yeah.
But I do miss those relationships and seeing people and getting to interact with people in certain ways. Now there's always shitty customers, but there's also, a lot of good that can come in those situations too.
Hello, music lovers. Campbell's Music Room Guitars was opened and founded by our longtime friend Kyle Campbell back in 2017. If you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, you're always needing something. From strings, picks, or maybe a repair to your trusty instrument. Campbell's Music Room Guitars has a full line of all the stringed instruments. New and pre-owned, accessories, pedals, amplifiers, and here's the best part, it's a local, family-owned business where you will get the very best of sales and service from the owner himself. Campbell's Music Room Guitars has something for everyone. Did we mention that he also gives private lessons? Kyle is one of Knoxville's most multi-talented players and teachers with many years of professional teaching experience. Located at 5103 Kingston Pike, open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Give Kyle a call at 865-584-0041 or stop by and tell him McGill and Jamie sent you and you wanted to have one more for the good guys. Yeah. Well, we're certainly glad you're still around. And then, so now you said this earlier and I forgot. What was it, 2018?
18. I think that's about right.
When you left Barley's.
Yeah.
And then you were doing some stuff for, you stayed with Randy.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was talking to you, weren't you doing something with, weren't you doing something down at, what's the place?
Fieldhouse Social down on campus.
Yeah.
Is where I went after.
Okay.
And I was there for a couple of years, and then the pandemic rolls through, and life in the restaurant business got really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know that I had ever worked as hard in my life. And I was working back in those Barley's days. Sometimes I'd work 12, 15 hours, I'd work the morning shift, maybe take a nap and come back and do some night shift stuff, like a place like that's hard to take your hands off of for too long. And so I was used to working hard, but it was just different during the pandemic. Everything was just hard.
Yeah.
People were butting up against all sorts of boundaries that we had never thought we'd ever have to see.
Yeah.
So then that really got me leaning towards I needed to find something else to do. My body was starting to break down a little bit from being on my feet all the time in a restaurant. I had some opportunities come up for a full-time thing. And so that's why I ended up moving on to the audio-visual stuff.
Well, are you happy doing that now?
Work is always just going to be work, it turns out.
Sure.
But I do like the diversity of the work, and there's a lot of problem solving, and so that keeps your brain young. That's fun. So in those ways, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think about that, and I'm like, that sounds like. But when you think like problem solving, that's fun. I'm like, is it fun?
Yeah.
And then I start, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess it is because you've been in the music business or a leader of a band for how long, and you're certainly going to have more problems than
asking for problems.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know,
it's like having 4 girlfriends.
Yeah,
and none of them putting out.
Oh, yeah,
just bitching.
Yep.
It's like fuck. So, well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you're as happy as you can be. And so this year is going to be extra fun for one reason for me is because we're going to be doing our 11th annual Mike McGill Christmas Spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll hit the high spots really, really quick. I've told it a million times, at least 10 times up to this point. But in 2012, the world was going to end. And Rodney called me up. Or I don't think you called me. I think I was just there one night. And you were like, we just need to have all of our favorite people, all our favorite bands, and just put something together. And I was like, yeah, well, we could do each band could do 3 or 4 songs a piece, and we could just turn over the stage and everybody play everybody else's stuff and just go with it. And so we had an end of the world party, and we're still here.
Still here.
And sometimes I'm thankful, and other times I'm like, boy, it would have been a good way to go out.
It would have been a nice way.
But then at the end of the night, we're sitting back there talking and stuff, and it's, you said we should do this every year. It was so much fun. In that business, one of the good things, you being in the venue and the venue of town, was you got to see everybody for a little bit.
Yeah.
I know it was a little different because you were working and taking care of responsibilities. But the big thing with us is we didn't hardly ever get to go out and see everybody else's shows because we were working so much and was always playing some other time when somebody else was playing. So out of pure selfishness, that all started up. And then, of course, I think it was probably around the 4th year, maybe the 3rd or 4th year. I think it's probably the 4th year. It became a way to raise money for the Second Harvest Food Bank for their Food for Kids program. Saying all that to say this, you did a song one year way back when.
Did.
And I don't think it was a Christmas song.
Well, it
had Jesus in it.
It was about Jesus, and he's the reason for the season,
well,
right?
I guess that's why I didn't argue with you.
Yeah, we did a little Hayes Carl tune.
That's right.
Yeah. She left me for Jesus.
That's right. And but this year, you're on December 17th. You're going to be coming out and joining me and the boys.
Yeah.
Have you got I know we've talked about writing a Christmas song.
Well, I got a piece of it.
Okay, good.
We got to get together and get the other
Okay.
piece.
Well, you see where the bat cave is now.
I see where the bat cave is.
I'll send up the Schlitz signal. I'll turn the neon on. And
yeah. I finally learned the secret handshake. So they'll let me into mascot now.
I thought you'd never get it, too.
Yeah, it was tough.
It's just, you just do it like this.
Yeah.
And, so December 17th at the Bijou, the 11th annual, Rodney's going to be one of our guests. Just got official words back from Mick and from RB. They're both going to be guests this year.
Oh, wow.
And Mick will be a newbie. He'll be a first timer. RB came on years ago and did one way back when we were still at Barley's.
Okay.
And I can't remember It was probably really early.
It was
probably
definitely
second
early.
or third
Yeah.
year or something. Maybe even been the first one. I'm not sure. But and of course we had so many back then. We had like 10 guests,
Right?
And everybody just did one song. So this last couple of years, we've trimmed it down to like 5 guests, and everybody gets a couple.
Yeah.
And it's
So the math works out better too,
Yeah, it does.
and it gives, if you're just going to have that one shot, unless you've just been doing it a long, long time, you're not going to feel that comfortable to get over,
Right.
if you will. So
you need a warm up.
I think the 2 songs is a nice way to go with it, and we've been met by good appreciation and results from that. So
makes the rehearsals a lot easier too.
yeah, it does. Makes it easier for the bands trying to figure out all my shit and gibberish and videos and lists, and it certainly makes it a heck of a lot easier for me. But we're looking forward to that. You just played Barley's on Sunday night, past Sunday night.
I did, yeah.
And that is with Lee Rod and the Various States.
That is correct.
Did I get it right?
You did get it right.
Damn. What's
Yeah.
coming to this world?
Has an and in it.
Yeah.
And it has an and in
And
it.
I didn't get chastised for it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, I went with the Various States because what I've quickly learned in trying to be a band leader is that you can rarely get the same guys to play with you from week to week. So we're just various states of a band.
Hence the refills.
Exactly.
But what's kind of crazy about that is this is the most stable group I've had ever doing the refills. It was before it was always somebody different.
Right.
And it was always, just grab an A chord and follow me. But I like the name. What's the? I like the Lee Rod. Is that something? Was that given to you, or was that made up?
It was not given to me. I struggled with coming up with a band name at all, and it was just short and sweet. It used my name enough, but didn't make it about me.
Yeah.
I was trying to be a little humble with it, maybe I could call it, but
you did put an and in it.
I did put an and in it.
Realistically, you're not being all that humble.
It's a little pretentious with an and.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's been a fun project. It's been a learning. Mostly each gig is another learning experience. And then, having, real deal musicians, guys that have gone out and made a living doing this.
Yeah.
Around me, it's just, I'm always learning something I can do better.
Yeah.
That's good, because I'm trying to fast track it a little bit. I just turned 45 on Monday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Appreciate that.
Like yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize
Halfway
that.
to 90.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm coming into to trying to be a band leader a little late in life. So I got some fast tracking to do.
It's overrated.
Yeah, I've learned that quickly.
No, I tell you, I can't complain a bit. Jamie's been great, and he called me out of the blue one day. He hadn't played in how long?
Regularly in years.
Yeah.
Outside of church.
Yeah.
15 probably.
And then Poe has been there pretty much every time, and for a long while now. Bass players are always the hardest. Daniel, not Kimbrough, but Daniel Shiflett had set in and played pretty steady with us for at least a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and of course, Nate on drums or or Whitlock when he's not out on the road these days.
Yeah.
Or if Nate's busy or something like that. So it's now you got sometimes Brock's playing with you.
I'd say the band is always me and Brock and Corey Kimbrough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the drums and the bass have been a little rotation. Whitlock has been there. I've had Chad Melton and Steve Corrigan. And then bass, I've had Robert Richards and Vince Logan. And there's a young kid that I met through the Singer-Songwriter group, Michael Jones, and he just did the last show with us. And
do a good job?
He did a great job.
Good.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Yeah, it was good to find young talent.
Absolutely, man. And somebody that gets it, even if they don't complete, and and I don't mean like there's some kind of prodigy or something,
right.
But there's so much more to getting it than just the music aspect of it. And that's always refreshing.
And he listens to the kind of music I play. So,
that helps.
He gets the style.
So much.
Get right in there and go.
Yeah.
What are you playing?
It's a little bit.
Summertime, it's a good.
Yeah. Summertime,
it's a shit. No,
we'll put it right at Americana. I do a little bit of honky tonk and some country stuff. But, when I do covers, they're usually like 70s songwriters, Jim Croce or Cat Stevens type stuff.
Right.
So I probably stay more in that touchy-feely songwriter stuff, lyrically driven more than big vocal performance type stuff. So.
Very good. Tell me more, because you were a big part of the Singer-Songwriters series. What's it called?
They like to refer to it as Wednesday night songwriter night, I think is the right way to say that.
I've seen it a bunch on social media.
Yeah.
And I have yet to get down there. Now, you used to do it at Geezer's?
It used to be at Geezer's. So J.C. Hahn was had some dealings with the Geezer's guys, and so he was trying to build some music community there. So he started a songwriters night. And it was, moving along, and some changes had to be made. He moved it to a different day, and it started to pick up. And then he started getting more people involved and him less involved with running it. So he's got Cullen Kehoe is now running it for him there at Geezer's, but then Geezer's decides it's going to close up shop. So I got with Cullen, and we talked about where we could maybe move this thing. And I decided we'd use that relationship with Gina Truitt down at the Jig and Reel and talk to her. And she was like, well, if you guys are telling me this thing's good and it's going to work, then I'll trust you. And again, that's the music biz, right? You building relationships and trust. And she was like, yeah, the thing we're doing on Wednesday's not really working, and it's only every other. And so let's try this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's been down there, I guess, maybe 6 or so months coming up on it, and maybe just 5. But it's there's usually at least 20 players in a night.
Right.
And that's, from what I've seen, it's the most successful open mic night in town going currently.
Okay. And it's all original music?
He allows original and covers.
Okay.
But original is definitely encouraged.
Right.
And I think that part of that.
And I'm glad, honestly, they do that, because, first of all, if you think you fucking heard everything, you ain't.
Yeah.
So piss off, number one. And number two, all of our heroes did covers.
Yep.
They all had people that they loved as writers that either wasn't ever going to be a featured artist as a performer, or didn't want to be, or B, it just everybody won.
Yeah.
You know?
It's something that John Whitlock and I talked about, because not only is John a drummer, he's an excellent singer and songwriter himself.
Yes, he is.
And we were talking about taking some cover songs and how they become, they just kind of become yours. And you don't actually realize that you're doing it differently than the artist that wrote the song until you finally look back way down the line. You're like, oh, wow, I guess I have completely made this song mine. And so he's got a couple that he was talking about on that. And, I was like, well, that's a really great way to look at things too, because now as a songwriter, I can look at how is it that I make that song mine that made it successful, that now I can maybe write from that place.
Yeah. No, I think that's good.
And some people, it's hard enough to share singing and playing an instrument as it is, much less now you're sharing your poetry too.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's just easier and more inviting for that person to be able to jump up there, do a cover song, get used to being on stage. Because to me, that's really what that community is about. Everybody's supporting each other to get out there and have the ability to share our gifts.
Mm-hmm. Is there somebody to look out for? Is there maybe, I don't want to say your favorite, because I don't want you to, but somebody that's impressed you, or something that you really like?
There's several, and the one that pops up first on my tongue here is because he doesn't play out at all, and it's the only time I ever catch him doing anything is these open mic nights. And he's let's see, I think he's from Oklahoma. I can't remember right now, but he'd lived in Nashville for a couple of years, got a little EP out. His name's Jared Hard, and he's just an excellent songwriter, but I never see him out doing the circuit.
Yeah.
He's out and he's always down at the trailhead. I'm like, man, you should get Joe to give you a gig down here sometime. And he's like, so he's real humble about it. I think he's obviously taken his own path, but he's always good to catch.
And his name again is Jared Hard?
Jared Hard. He has, I think, his only, I don't even know that he's got any of his music on social media or anything, but he's definitely SoundCloud.
Okay. So definitely, I guess maybe he fancies and likes the fact that he's more of a songwriter versus a singer-songwriter,
and that's a
performer-songwriter. I think there's big differences, but
yeah. And it's hard for me. Again, I love building community. So I'm like, oh man, come on down to this show and I'll introduce you to this guy. And then you can maybe he can be in your band. I'm always trying to help people. That's always been my goal with the music, was to just lift people up with it. Oh, I've got a stage. Let's put you on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not always everybody's path.
Right.
But, and not to take anything away from all of the other folks that are down at the participating in that. He's just one that comes to mind. There are several folks out there that are doing great things, and whenever they get to that spot where they start putting their music into the world on digital platforms, I think that they're going to have some real momentum.
Yeah, well, good. That's encouraging. I need to get down there. I need to come by and
I'd love to see you down there
and witness this.
Yeah.
Come out and sing one or something.
Love to see you,
because getting new blood and new talent, and especially folks that are younger, is the name of the game.
Absolutely.
That's what we want to see as well. That has become. I love sharing the stage. I love sharing the mic. I think that's been one of the biggest joys from the Christmas show. I can't believe I just said Christmas show. Christmas Spectacular.
Yeah.
I'm slipping.
Mm-hmm.
No and.
Yeah. Yeah. But I take a lot of pride in that, and it's been opened up a lot of new relations. We had Nick Horner on last year, and the whole
Carol Cart,
and but they were doing something else too. Anyway, Nick's always working.
He is.
He's very inventive of doing stuff, and and I didn't know. I was a little weird because he had called me up to get me to do some stuff with him, and then had me on a podcast episode that he was doing at the time, and and before I knew it, I was just like, well, yeah, that sounds good. You should do that. And then I'm like, oh shit. I've spent a month, putting this thing together, and I don't know where I'm going to put it now.
Yeah.
But, and then bringing in all the other people in on top of it with him, that was a lot of fun. So,
yeah. Nick is good at community too. He also runs an open mic down at Status Dough every other Sunday, and he is so supportive of live original music too. So
now say the name of this place again.
Status Dough. It's a donut shop on Gay Street.
Okay.
6 p.m.
Wow. I need to get out more often. I don't know where any of these, that place is for sure.
I didn't until somebody was like, oh, you should come to this other open mic. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Where is it? And I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So tell that again. Status Dough, and that's every other
Sunday, 6 p.m. start time, and they do original music only.
Okay. And that's Nicholas Horner. I know you can find him on social media. And then the thing at the Jig and Reel is
every Wednesday starts at 7 and goes until we're done. So get there early and sign up because the list fills up quick.
Yeah. Okay. And everybody gets a couple of tunes, you say?
Yeah, they do at least 2 songs. And if the list looks light, it'll start with 3 songs. And then if its list starts filling up, they'll pare it down to 2. So
okay.
It's reactive.
Okay.
Is most of the audience players, or are you getting people to come?
I would say a majority of the audience are players, but then there's, players, friends, family that are there. And then sometimes folks are just wandering in. And so that's, you're getting some exposure, which, always a good thing.
It is a good thing. And the Jig and Reel's a good thing. You're going to get, even if you don't know somebody's listening, somebody's probably listening.
Yep.
Music's popped in both other rooms. And
yep.
There's been nights we played there, and I just, we had everybody that was there. We had them. But then you'd see somebody through the pass-through window at the bar, and then, you'd get a thumbs up, or you'd get a, you'd always get a reaction out of somebody that was sitting over there, or somebody that was sitting there, their head, or they were patting their hands, or stuff like that. So, and that's a big thing about performing. There's going to be times that you don't think, you think, what the hell am I doing here? And then out of nowhere, an opportunity or a chance of a lifetime can come along.
Yeah. Especially starting out new to this, I'm definitely playing to some empty rooms.
Yeah.
But then you'll look out and you'll see one person you've grabbed, at least for a couple of songs.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, at least I'm doing this much right.
Yeah.
And so, like you're saying, you'll look through that pass-through window at the Jig and Reel, and somebody at the bar is paying attention, and what you're really great at is drawing those people in. As wonderful as a musician and singer, your ability to work a crowd is second to none.
Well, I appreciate it. It's it's from all those years of hearing crickets.
Yeah.
And I mean, it really is. People are like, "Oh, you're good at it. You're so good at it." And it's like, yeah, but you should have seen how bad I sucked.
And worked at it 20 years.
Yeah.
It's not like you did it over.
Yeah, that's true too. But we would go. So a typical morning when we were playing music in Gatlinburg, we played 5-6 days a week, sometimes 7 through key times of the year, peak season, if you will. And you imagine getting up in a gigantic lobby in front of a fireplace. I always call it the big log cabin in the sky or the great fireplace.
Yeah.
And these people, you got 100 families in there, and it's loud. It's, it's everything you don't want.
Loud with ambient noise.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's everything you don't want as a performer because they could give 2 flying shits about anything. They don't even see you walk in.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a 4 or 5 piece acoustic bluegrass band with instruments, upright bass, saying, "Excuse me," cutting through. And, part of them don't even see you.
Yeah.
And then you have at this time, let's say you start up and it looks like a UFO's just landed because then they don't know what the hell's going on. All they thought they were there to do was go through this bullshit tour and get 2 tickets to Dollywood or the aquarium.
Right.
And you got some guy pissed off at some lady or vice versa. Husband pissed off at a wife or a wife pissed off at a husband because they're up at 8:30 in the fucking morning doing this shit.
Yeah.
Because only reason is because you were too cheap to go buy the tickets in the first place. So every odd is stacked against you. It's not, it's fucking hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
And you bust into something and you either got to get them or you're just going to sit up there and you're going to die.
Yeah.
And we died a lot, but then there was a lot of times that we got them. And we'd sell $200 worth of CDs that morning. Or you would, or you could have just done a cover of something and played it every bit as good as you ever heard it on the record the very first time you ever did it, and nothing afterwards.
Yeah.
So there was years of that, of not giving a shit, that you didn't care if you bombed or you didn't. And, there was times where you would see like people that were physically uncomfortable while you were going through your shtick or your act or your music even. And those were the people you would always see out on the property somewhere later after their thing. And I always made it a point to go speak to them. Just because.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, I'm the asshole that died up there in front of you earlier while you were having your seizure, Of course, I didn't say that to them, but, but I wanted them. I wanted them to be as uncomfortable as I was up there watching them.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. And then the first paying gig I ever got just playing with myself and the guitar was at Jimmy's. And Jimmy's was a local neighborhood beer joint with 47 TVs and blowjobs in the mop closet and cocaine in the bathrooms and 10 different motorcycle gangs coming in.
Yeah.
it was not, hey, I got a job for you,
Right.
You get to play the Bluebird Cafe today.
Yeah.
Where was Jimmy's?
It was on Tazewell Pike, right there at the same shopping center as where Party City and all that is.
Oh, CC's and all that
Yeah.
there.
Which any bar in a strip mall
Yeah.
is, that's, you know what you're in for,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, but you're starving to death.
Yeah.
You've got no work. You've got all these songs. You've got all this ability that you think you do. And you need a place.
Yeah.
And you got to go make money. You got fucking rent coming. And it was because it was a necessity versus, I really wanted to.
Right.
And it was tough, man. I mean, sometimes they couldn't give two shits. And other times, they were your best buddies. You come out there and make $150 in tips at night, And I always noticed that the more I would turn on them, funny and laugh and cut up and chuckle and even if I may have thought I crossed the line a little bit, at my set break, I'd go find that one I thought I crossed the line with and have a beer with them, smack them on the back, talk, and things like that. So I don't know. That has to be where it's come from over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure that crowd.
But you can't be afraid to fuck one up.
Yeah,
you cannot be afraid to fuck one up. It's first ball, fastball, and it's a hitter's ball game. And you're either going to swing and miss, or you're going to swing and you're going to hit it a long fucking way.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hit it hard and it's right to them.
Yeah,
and that's okay too, because they got it. But
and it gets easier to shit the bed from the audience perspective if you got a band with you.
Yeah.
Like all of us up there together, we don't give a damn. I mean,
yeah.
And we get, we've played to some empty rooms lately. I mean, they're at least later in the set because there's just, everybody went home. And you're real good at the heckler. Everybody's got to put their 2 cents in once they get 4 or 5 beers in them. And, that's where you excel, is shutting those people down and making them think it was their idea to shut up. Too.
Yeah.
That's the good.
Hey, man, they gave me a microphone.
That's right.
Mic on the mic.
I don't know if you know this, but you will lose. It's like, this is loud. I can be louder.
Yeah. I always like to tell you, I came for the music and stayed for the comedy.
Yeah. Oh, mercy. Well, I think that's the thing, and I think that's we've talked about this with a few of our past guests. Kimbrough's been here, and one of your I know he's your buddy too, but Brendan James Wright was up a couple weeks, 3 weeks ago, and he was saying that that if there was anybody that was more of a weirdo than him, that it was you.
Oh.
And I was like, I didn't know this about Rodney. Rodney's always kind of been he's always been a really friendly guy, but he's always kind of been this kind of stoic guy, and he conducts himself a certain way. And he was like, oh no, he's a complete weirdo. So he trashed you. So
yeah, that's fair.
I mean, and if there's anything, I mean, if you want to turn on him, right now's the time.
I don't think I'll turn on him right now.
Okay.
But when I hear his, that way I can have some fuel for it.
Well, maybe you can wait and we'll see if his ayahuasca journey went well or not.
Right.
And maybe that's the perfect time to turn on him.
That might be it.
That might be.
Or maybe he'll have an experience and come back and be a totally different dude. And that's never going to happen.
No, that's
he is still alive because he's posted.
Yeah, I see that.
Facebook. Yeah, he is still living.
Yeah,
but I would say that to anybody getting started. I said that tongue in cheek a while ago about you can't be afraid to fuck one up, but it's really true.
Yeah,
if you've got something and it's speaking to you, whether you think you might know it 1,000% or you might know it 78.3. But you want to do it and it's speaking to you. Guess what? Do it.
Yep.
Do it regardless, because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to know where you just messed up.
Yeah.
But you will. And if you're able to hear yourself mess up, then you can fix it.
And you're going to mess up.
Absolutely. I still do it all the time.
Everybody, even the legends.
Yeah.
Mess it up.
Mm-hmm. Some are just better at covering it up.
There you have it.
Than others. And another little quick thing for newbies is don't ever apologize for something you're getting ready to do.
Mm-mm.
Ever.
Yeah.
Unless you've got something real witty and funny that you made up about it, okay, it might be all right to do it then.
Yeah.
But don't apologize for it ahead of time, because you have just told everybody not to listen.
Yep.
And not to give a flip.
Or that they're going to be disappointed.
Right.
Yeah.
This
exactly.
is getting ready to suck. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And I know it.
Yeah.
I know it. Just want to tell you up front.
Yeah. So, but I don't think there's anything that makes up for experience when it comes to, your art or your craft. It's worth it all. And knowing what you can do. I know what I can do.
Right.
And I stick to it.
Yep.
And it may get tiresome. Some people may say, it sounds like the same old shit he's always done. Well, yeah, probably so, because that's what I know I can at least do well.
Yeah.
Well, that's why there's opportunity for millions of different artists.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to do what your wheelhouse is.
Yeah.
I see these, I try not to, but these damn shows like American Idol and all this, these people get on there and they get to pick the songs they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they pick something that they can't do or shouldn't do. And then they wonder why they get kicked off.
Yeah.
Like, man, do what you're good at.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get up there and sing a damn Whitney Houston song.
Yeah.
You ain't Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
You mentioned her doing that Jolene song. You imagine the balls that took?
Yeah.
I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't Dolly.
Right.
Yeah.
So sorry, Mindy. It wasn't.
Well,
it's good. It's fine. It's good.
And then sometimes in the process of all that too, I certainly wouldn't. I mean, some of the covers that I do, I don't know.
Well, you said it Sunday. It's like, everybody wants to hear Please Stop Loving Her Today.
Yeah.
No. Go play it in your car.
Mm-hmm.
It's one way to do that, and it's his way, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I always tell folks, I said, have you ever heard George Jones sing that song? Well, yeah, that's why I want you. I'm like, well, that's why I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. There's some things that just.
Yeah. It's just it's a complete loser.
Yeah.
And
coming up with songs to do, because I don't have quite enough original music. So it's probably 60% covers and the rest is original right now. But
yeah, and that's fine.
Talking to folks trying to come up with some covers to do. Somebody was like, "Oh yeah, you should do Gentle on Your Mind," that John Hartford tune that Glenn Campbell always did. And I was like, "Oh, okay, let me look that up." And I go and I find a YouTube version of John Hartford and Glenn Campbell doing that song together, and I was like, "No, I'll never do that song. You can't do it like that." So forget it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I mean,
no, there's some folks that'll say, "Well, you could do it," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I could."
Right.
But I could stayed at home and been half-assed.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I don't want to be half-assed.
Yeah, I don't want to be the low
unless I've been working on it.
the low rent version of something, you know?
Yeah. I won't be Bob Seger after taxes.
Yeah.
You know, I can't be, if I can't have the Silver Bullet Band,
Yeah.
I'm not turning the fucking page. I don't care. I'm not
he
doing
gets
it.
a lot of bad press. He shouldn't.
I think he's one of the greatest singers ever.
Damn, I saw him one time at Thompson Bowling, and he just killed it.
Yeah. I was always a big Bob Seger fan. And I get it about a lot of those acts, especially from that era, because you have the classic rock shows in the radio programs, and you hear the same 3 songs.
Yeah.
And you just sitting there thinking like, okay, give me 3 steps, give me back my bullets, and Tuesday's Gone. And you're just sitting there thinking about, what about 3 Walls of Rayford or 4 Walls of Rayford or Mr. Banker or Made in the Shade? You know, I mean, there's so much good Skinner stuff, and there's so much good Seeger stuff that nobody's heard. I mean, doesn't get any kind of popular airplay.
Well, even if you have heard it a million times, it's still good.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing about being a musician is to be able to hear the same thing with fresh ears.
Yeah.
You know, that's important.
That's true. Yeah. I didn't think about it.
People putting down Leonard Skinner, and I'm like,
yeah.
You just told me you're stupid. I mean, why don't you just say I'm stupid? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they play it all the time. Well, they play it all the time for a fucking reason.
That's true.
You know?
I've definitely been caught like, no, I would, I don't want to listen to that. But then as I was trying to learn guitar more, somebody would be like, no, you should take this song, look at it, break it down, see how they wrote it. It's like, shit, I don't want to like something that the Eagles did, but damn, they wrote a really good song,
Man.
That's a perfect example of a band that gets shit on a lot that shouldn't. I mean, they are really, might be the greatest band ever. Vocally, all the way from top to bottom, just,
it'd be hard to argue with.
I mean, damn. Singing and playing and, but at the same time, I'm not going to leave here and play the Eagles on the way home.
No.
Heard all that. It's great. But, getting fatigued or tired with something because you've heard it a bunch, that's different.
Right.
I don't hear Sweet Home Alabama come on and turn it off and be like, it fucking sucks. I just turn it over because I know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that way with Haggard sometimes. I'll go through.
You shut your mouth.
I know. But I'll go through this phase or for weeks where that's all I'll listen to. There's a lot of it too. I mean, not all the same stuff. I'll just let it go and then I'll shut it down. But it makes it all the better when I come back to it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, I put that on the shelf for 6 months and listen to, Glenn Campbell, whatever the hell. And I come back to it and I'm like, God, this is good. But anyway, I got on a tangent, but what I'm getting at is a lot of these people, and see, we touched on this a little bit with Kyle Campbell was on in the last episode, and I didn't get a chance to talk about this because basically I forgot it, but the mentality in the musicians in this town has changed over the last 30 years. Used to, in the 90s, early 90s and whatever, it was the era of the diva around here. And, you can't do that, or this is not as good as that. And it was a competition here in town. It's not so much that way anymore.
Lots of ego.
Yeah. And, once they figured out that they weren't quite as good as they thought they were, are now, working a regular day job like everybody else, then maybe,
I got a story on that just real quick to interject. There was a band coming up through town, and we were having a little trouble with them.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I told them that the steps on that ladder look the same going up as they do coming down. You might want to be careful.
Yeah.
And it didn't take very long for them to come back around.
Yeah.
So I won't call out any names, but
yeah, well,
did they figure it out?
They did figure it out.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, as good as they could figure it out.
Right.
Sometimes you gotta change which measuring stick you're measuring people by.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't. Yeah, it's like fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, bluegill. Nah, all of them you want.
Yeah.
Crappie. No, we're gonna need 12 inches out of those.
Yeah. But not to sidetrack you too much there.
Well, no, I just, it just made me think about it. It's like people get on their musical high horse and they learn to play something and they're like, oh, I'm me and I'm so good. We talked about this on the last episode. Okay, you're good, but I know 50 people personally. I don't mean on the radio, like people I know that I can call better than you.
Right.
Well,
or better than me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And every one of us sitting in this room and every person out there listening has already heard better.
Mm-hmm.
If they're honest.
If they're honest. Themselves. Well, if they've ever turned on a fucking radio.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or bought a CD.
It was something I've been thinking on recently, being new to the band leader thing. And
you thought you were in Nashville, but you really were in Asheville.
Right.
That's what my dad always said.
I've realized I don't want to be the best musician on stage ever.
Oh God, no! You'd be awful.
Yeah. So surrounding yourself with that community again, and there's no reason for competition. Like it's hard enough out there as it is, and that was true from the venue side. There's a lot of folks in town that see it as competition. Well, they got that band. That's my band. They're not supposed to be playing here and all these things. Like, no.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to do what's best for my business. And I don't really care what you're doing with your business. I think if we all worried a little more about ourselves, like what we're doing, and so whatever everybody else out there doing, probably be a little bit better off in general.
Yeah.
Well, and you play with a bunch
somewhere in the book, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's in the book somewhere.
I think it's somewhere in the book. Yeah.
If you're all the time playing with scrubs, you're never going to get any better yourself.
Exactly.
You always want to be surrounded by people that are better.
Yeah.
And the competition aspect of it, we're and Kyle touched on this about sports and being competitive, and there is a place for that, but it's not on stage.
Yeah.
Any time. And the more I study legendary musicians and whatever, I see that the people that are there are some damn divas out there still, but most of those cats are humble.
Yeah.
And,
well, you have the perfect opportunity if you're an entertainer, singer, performer, or a professional athlete. You have the perfect opportunity and the platform to put up and show everybody why and who you are and how good you are when you get that opportunity to step behind whether it's a microphone or if it's to step on the field or if it's to take a turn at the plate to get a chance to bat. That's your opportunity to do it then. It's not your opportunity to complain to the ref or to complain to the bass player or the keyboard or the other band members or to complain about it behind. God, we played a show with Little Dickie and the Jackrags last week. What a bunch of pricks, and all this. No, this right here. Is this on?
Yeah.
This is your opportunity to get up, and you don't have to boast. You don't have to be braggadocious. You just get up and cut it.
Yeah.
And that'll sort its way out, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have to tell anybody you're good.
No.
Just be good.
Yeah.
And they will know.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you don't have to tell everybody you're the greatest basketball player of all time, LeBron James.
Oh,
because
that's some shit. What the fuck?
Totally different subject, obviously, but my God, can you imagine being that big of an egomaniac to say, I'm the greatest? Are you? Well, you think so. One person thinks so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, evidently, I mean,
evidently,
you weren't so, if you weren't so insecure,
yeah. I mean,
I really don't care.
There you have it.
Like if I was worth $1 billion, nearly all my insecurities be out the door.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I'd have a bigger honky tonk.
Oh yeah,
I
well,
can tell you that. My shit looked like Gillies back in the day. I'd have a fucking bull and everything. Hey, good guys and good gals alike. If you're looking for somewhere to go to get your hair did, then look no further than the Chop Shop Hair Studio. Our longtime friend and supporter, Cindy Lou, opened this spot located in Knoxville's very own Happy Holler back in 2010. Chop Shop Hair Studio offers a variety of services, including facial waxing, accessories, tools, and a complete line of men's and women's products, along with essential oils. A lover and supporter of the musical arts here locally and abroad, Cindy has a small stage with stringed instruments and offers discounts to guests if they are willing to play and or sing a song. The Chop Shop Hair Studio is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and 100% pure style, just like our dear friend and owner, Cindy Lou. The hours are Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can also visit thechopshophairstudio.com and or call 865-525-4240 to book your next visit to go and get your hair did. Located at 1206 North Central Street, Knoxville, Tennessee, Chop Shop Hair Studios. Stop by and tell them McGill and Jamie sent you to have one more for the good guys. You were asking me about my cigar. Yeah, it was. It's really good. I'm still down the last third of it. These were a big surprise for us. I had read good things about them for a long time. They're from a master blender, fellow by the name of AJ Fernandez out in Nicaragua, and I was smoking the Ramon Iones, which was one of the oldest brands besides Cabañas and Cuesta Rey of the Cuban cigars that he bought all the rights to and grows it's a Nicaraguan Puro, or Puro as they pronounce it, which means it's all comprised of Nicaraguan tobaccos. Corojo 99 wrapper, Criollo 98 binder, and Nicaraguan fillers from Esteli and Yalapa, I believe. But very, very good. Not for the newbie.
no.
This will have you in the fetal position, sucking your thumb if you're not careful.
But that is
If you're not, it is a wonderful cigar.
That's
though.
the best AJ blend that I've had.
It's pretty darn.
Is that a Churchill? That's a Churchill. Cigar.
It is Churchill side, 7-inch by 49 ring gauge, 48 ring gauge, I believe. 48.
I had just finished.
I like it.
Smoking that Garcia Blue original.
Oh, another
The big-
Corojo stick.
Yeah, in Robusto. So mine's gone now. But
Yeah.
it'll knock you on your ass too.
That's a good one, though.
It's not a for the faint of heart. And speaking of Cabañas, that's what I'm smoking next.
Cabañas Robusto. It's a Habano Rosado wrapper. Nicaraguan Puro has rolled at the same Garcia factory where my father's and the Garcia Blue that you just had
And
comes from.
Very good pricing on these.
Oh, man.
JR's. Is JR handling these exclusively, right? I guess.
I think so.
I think so too.
They are either handling them exclusively, or they have done it for a while, or maybe they have a certain amount of time with it. But they're the only place I've seen them. And box of 20 of those right now on JR. I ordered a box the other day, and they're wonderful. Great little. I mean, they're just perfect.
Anytime cigar too. This.
They're I think they were 72, 75, something like that. Good
that name,
price.
Cabanas, or how do you pronounce it?
Cabanas.
Yeah.
It's the oldest Cuban brand.
It's a trademarked name.
Yeah.
You'll notice on their website they put a TM after that name.
Mhm.
Every one of them, so as not to get confused with, I guess, just the terminology of it. But you turn me on to these, and these are so good. This is a great morning cigar too.
Yeah.
In the morning.
Or you just had a nice big lunch.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those are really a good cigar for a midday.
I smoked them backwards. Probably should have started with this one, but that was the one I smoked earlier. Was the third one I've had today. So this is number 4. But man,
yeah, those are really good. I don't know. I have been here recently. I've been more of a fuller flavor guy. We kind of started off when you and I first started. Figured out that both of us smoke and enjoy cigars. I was much more milder and
I was smoking the strong,
less robust blends, and it's kind of flip-flopped a little bit.
Yeah, I've been smoking a lot of these and Connecticut wrappers and stuff lately. But
yeah,
I mean, we smoke both all the time.
Yeah,
it's just I forgot that I had this in there. I would have probably smoked this first. I love these bands on these too.
Yeah, they're real ornate, real good. They're real old world looking.
Yeah. Whereas that cigar there is about $12 a stick.
Yeah.
And we both got a box of those, right? Back this one's like,
we found them much cheaper than that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
But
regular retail.
$4.
Yeah.
Even in the Churchill size, which all the ones I have of these Mike gave me, but
I have some Churchills.
Yeah, I smoked a Churchill the other day.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I think they're good.
Oh, they're real good.
But I like the Robusto better.
This is the best one.
It's funny how different sizes, they can be the same blend, but the different sizes will just have a completely different taste and experience with them. But yeah, I've been pretty happy with those. So we need to remember to do that. But yeah, that's what we're smoking today. But so we were talking about influences and stuff. We normally talk a little bit about that with everybody, but didn't ask you. So did you grow up with music in the house? Did you grow up where did that love or that first thing come from?
Probably about the only thing that kept me. I'm a high school dropout, but the only thing that kept me in as long as I was in was band.
Okay.
So I'd skip school that day and then show up for band class. It was the last class of the day. I'd skip school all day long and then go back for band.
That's great.
And so in the house, there wasn't a lot of music. Music was more of a in the car thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a lot of the pop hits, but I was getting all of let's not call them pop hits. I got the popular selections from country music. So I was hearing, what you would expect to hear on top 40 radio for country music, but I didn't get any of the deep cut stuff.
Right.
And so as the years went on and I started looking more on my own, I would get more of that deep cut stuff. And then I don't know when, but I was into just bluegrass. Like I didn't care who it was or what it was. I just wanted to hear bluegrass. And then I just kept progressing and getting a little deeper. And
Where did you hear it first? Just kind of around, or
if you walk too far in this town, you're bound to trip over some bluegrass.
Right.
And so it just, probably some of my first exposure was going to, back in the day, Disc Exchange.
Okay,
at the listening bar, and that would be probably where I first got that exposure.
That would have been the one down on Chapman or the
No, that would have been
one at West.
One West. Yeah,
Okay.
because I was still coming up from Lenore City in those
Right.
days. And then, there was always a little bluegrass jam at some point in front of a firehouse somewhere that
Yeah.
you could stumble upon
Yeah.
in those small towns. And so I'd catch some.
Community center.
Yeah.
The VFW or somewhere.
They definitely had square dances downtown. And so I was catching some of that stuff. But like strong, I don't know that I have one strong influence.
Yeah.
But I would say a bunch of my relationships, my friends, all of that was based around music, like picking up new music. And what I've learned.
So Joey was Black Sabbath. Jenny was
exactly,
Crosby, Stills and Nash or whatever,
Yeah. Some of my first, one of the bigger influences for me, I guess, would be Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Oh,
and
okay.
I got that from my brother-in-law.
Okay.
And he gave me the VHS for Woodstock. And that's probably one of the first places I really started developing my own musical taste. Where it wasn't dependent on what mom or dad had on the radio or what Bob was doing. It was me.
Yeah.
And so Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young definitely came. That was one of those first ones for me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
In the bluegrass world, do you have do you have a favorite or somebody that you
I don't,
maybe not favorite? I don't know.
One of the first albums that I ended up owning, and I'm not going to call it a favorite, and it's not traditional, but it was probably one of the first introductions into how music was expanding at that time, was those folks Holden and the Way, which was Garcia and Grissom and it was like that really started opening up, like, oh wow, these guys do other stuff too,
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun to stumble upon.
It's so funny. I never got it. I never got any of that. I mean, there was definitely things that they have done or had did and things that I had heard that I liked. I didn't just I didn't turn a deaf ear to it. I just didn't say no. But that stuff was just never the things that I ever that drew me in, I guess is what to say. And it's so funny because I actually got a chance to when I went to Hawaii, one of the years I was over in Hawaii with Bob and Meg, he made the introduction to Bill Kreutzmann, and we got to go fishing together. So we're out on his boat, and he and I are sitting there talking about bluegrass music of all things.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember thinking, what the fuck's going on here? And he told me how, and I mean, I guess I knew, but in the moment or in the surroundings, it was just, one of those surreal things. It was just like, really? You guys like Jimmy Martin? I don't. But yeah, he was like, yeah, man, we love bluegrass music. Jerry played bluegrass all the time, and da 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 da. So it's just funny. And like I say, I would, other than maybe 2 or 3 songs, I could have not sat there and told that man. And maybe that's why we got along so well.
Yeah.
That I wasn't some fanboying out or something, but I couldn't have told him shit from apple butter at that point about anything they had done. And I came back, and I don't know if you've seen this. Have you seen the Netflix? I think it was on Netflix. But What a Long Strange Trip.
I haven't.
Okay. If it's still on Netflix, that's the title of it. And I'm pretty sure I've seen it on Netflix, but it's basically Bob Weir and others from the Dead just talking about what the hell. You know, they get their first hit, and instead of, you know, buying some clothes or some, you know, like a, you know, whatever, like just the things that we would, you know, oh, we're going to get a house, we're going to get us sure up a little bit of our stability, our future, or whatever. No, those guys are like, you know, we should go put on a concert in front of the pyramids. And that's what they did. Took every bit of money they made off of trucking when it came out and went and took the fucking Wall of Sound to Egypt and played in front of the pyramids. Yeah, and promoted it, did it all themselves, paid for it all themselves. So if you haven't ever seen that, I was highly entertained, and I started kind of like getting it a little bit more at that point. But yeah, it's really worth checking out. What a long, strange trip.
I typically do really love those kind of surprising music documentaries. Like, I found one on YouTube a couple of years back. It was Sound City, which was a studio out in LA, and I guess Dave Grohl was buying the studio had been shuttered. Dave Grohl's buying the gear, and so they like do a little history about, because Nirvana recorded there, and Tom Petty and Fleetwood Mac, and it was just so interesting to get a peek at that.
Yeah,
just how diverse that music was and everything. It's just so there's so many great stories. Can get lost.
Absolutely. There's a ton of them out there too. There's a great one we've talked about here before, but the Stax record story PBS did was fucking amazing. Standing in the Shadows, the Motown, the story of the Funk Brothers is amazing. For our cigar nerds and friends that like that kind of stuff, there's a really great one on YouTube called Hand Rolled. Okay. And if you want to even think, like, even if you're not a cigar smoker, if you're just like, what are these guys talking about half the time?
Yeah.
Watch that. It's amazing.
Very well done.
It's very well done. And I just heard where they're starting a new thing. The same hand-rolled guys are starting a new thing to where they are doing an hour episode, documentary, whatever. But they've just started it, and it's going to be on the actual families or makers.
Oh.
So it's not just going to cover the whole gamut. It's going to actually go into individuals.
They're going to spend an hour like on
each one. Yeah. So that be looking for that on YouTube as well. But some really good stuff out there, especially with the music. Now, is that the one, the Dave Grohl one? Is that the same one? Because he did one for HBO too. I thought way back at that he went to different. Is that the same one where he goes to different, not just one studio, but goes to different ones? Like he was in Chicago at the famous.
I have not seen that one. So this one is different.
Okay. All right.
This is Sound Studios in LA, and it's where Nirvana hit their first record.
Okay.
And then so he dives back into the history, and it was it may have been the first, for any gearheads out there, the first Neve board that was brought to the United States.
Wow.
Okay.
And so like Neve's a big European, maybe England. I can't quite remember.
I think it is English.
And so like, that's what brought everybody to this Sound Studios was the board. And so they're shuttering the operation. So Dave goes in, buys the board, and then they end up cutting an album with all the people that have ever recorded something on it. And he gets Paul McCartney in there. And,
oh, wow.
They go through the history of Heartbreaks and all of the people that have worked there over the years.
Okay.
And it's free on YouTube. That's the best part, is like all this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much good stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about Neve stuff. I watched the thing today. I spent a lot of time watching. I record and I'm a gear geek,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I was watching a thing today with the guy that mixed Born in the USA,
Mm.
and his name escapes me. His last name's, I'll think of it in a minute.
Alley Filter Snatch.
Yeah,
That him?
it sounds like an Indian name. It's like
Oh,
clear.
I'm not going to
remember
do
his
that.
name. I'll think of it in a second. Anyway, but he had the raw tracks there, and he had these two guys. It was their channel, and he was just going through, and they're like, "Let me hear the raw vocal of Springsteen." He's like, "Okay, here it is." And, but yeah, man, YouTube.
Yeah.
I could spend my life just watching that.
I watch it a ton.
Absolutely.
I watch it a lot. There's like, when I get in, if I've worked at Barrel World that day and I come in, it's just like, it's the first thing I'll pop on. I sit down here and have a drink or a smoke or something. And yeah, I can catch up on so much stuff, like even some of the current event stuff, because
for free.
I don't watch the talking heads anymore about the sports. I can't stand that shit. They're always screaming, and somebody's got to have a hot take.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to be better than the other, and it's just like, fuck off.
Well, for me,
Can't take it.
I'm a bit of an autodidact, so I can watch how to do something.
They make a They make a cream for that.
I've been rubbing it for a while.
That's what I heard.
But I can watch something on
That's
YouTube.
what Brendan James Wright told me.
Yeah, I bet he did.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I can watch something on YouTube and then just learn how to do something and just go do it. Like it.
Yeah, that's
I've always
true.
had that ability to just pick up something really quick, and it started probably when I was young. My dad would work on a car or something, but he didn't have very good eyesight, and he'd be like, "Here, you do this." And so I started working on cars when I was 10 because I had better eyesight than him.
Right.
That's the only reason. And I've just always been able to pick up stuff like that. So now with YouTube out there, it like shortcuts your learning curve. You can just go and somebody's telling you all the tricks and all the trade secrets.
Right.
Nobody's gatekeeping that stuff anymore, so.
Bob Clear Mountain is who it is.
Okay.
And he's like on the Who's lifts.
I think I've seen that episode.
Producers and mixing engineers. He's like, Chris Lord Algie, him. There's like, it's a set of 10 or 12 guys. It's like, those are the guys. And yeah. Neve stuff is big bucks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that was what they recorded on at Abbey Road, wasn't it? Wasn't that a Neve?
I think they had 1073 preamps, which is what
the fuck does that mean?
That's his preamp design. That is pretty much what put him on the map. Really.
Yep. Okay.
And there are a couple of really good. I have two of them, but they're not Neve. They're the knockoff, which is really good as well. But
Neve was the board.
When then he started making boards, and Rupert Neve, he's still alive. I mean,
is he?
Is he? I think, unless he died during COVID and I missed it, but he may have. I'll look it up. But yeah, he is like the equivalent of a Neve is to recording as Shelby was to Mustang.
Oh, absolutely. I just meant that wasn't it a Neve board that they were
in? That might have been. I
think it was, and then that back then it seems like I remember something about like Macintosh preamps or something like that.
He died during COVID. He sure did. 21.
Yeah.
Macintosh is a big Macintosh is a big name in pro audio for home stuff.
Yeah, the company that I work for now, we have some Mac gear.
Yeah,
okay.
Well,
here's what I need help with.
Yeah.
Big Lee Rod AV.
There's some things I can help you with, and others
not so much. Not so much.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
No, I want to get a turntable and some speakers for in here.
Yeah.
But I don't need the Audio-Technica T37 4652s and what the fuck ever everybody else knows.
Yeah.
I was YouTubing some of this the other night, and they were showing that like they have smaller powered speakers, and they have the turntables and the probably say every bit of this wrong because I don't know and really don't care, but like there's Bluetooth compatibility with stuff now, and it's just such a more simple outright rig that you can still get all your music like that. But if you've got somewhat of a collection, you can still play all your favorite stuff too. So.
Yeah, there's still all the high end, ridiculous stuff that you can get out there. But it has become a lot more approachable and just user friendly. Like the Bluetooth thing has made it so much easier because you can have a turntable and most everybody owns some form of Bluetooth speaker now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you can just make that connection directly.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can step it up and get a slightly nicer pair of powered speakers.
Mm-hmm.
They've definitely made it easier. There's still those $15,000 air driven.
And that's
all that stuff.
You can spend literally, if you want, you can spend $150,000 to $200,000 on a turntable.
Oh yeah,
if you want. Now, who would do that? I don't know, but man,
what about if I want, but I can't?
Yeah, well, there you go.
There's that.
But
hello, is this thing on? I need some help.
And you'll attest to this, but that world of the high fidelity market, you can spend whatever you want on anything. You can buy speakers that are $200,000 a pair. And the thing about it is, and I tell people when they ask me about this, it's like, okay, well, you got $200,000 speakers in an uncontrolled room, so you've got a $500 speaker, and the great equalizer on something like that, where you can step up your game to where you can have brilliant audio on a budget, headphones, good ones, and a good headphone preamp.
To touch on your point, we spend a lot of time putting audio in people's homes, but the second that we try to sell them something to do treatments to the room, that's too expensive. You just spent $60,000 on this pair of speakers that are sitting in a concrete garage with sound bouncing everywhere, and they're just going to sound like $60 speakers.
Exactly.
In a cave, and that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear the other stuff, and it's really a status thing. The folks that are really out there doing it, they'll listen to us, but rarely does that ever happen.
And that's something that I follow a lot of mix engineers that are like that guy, Clear Mountain. And now, because they're so expensive, you go out and buy a Neve board, you're talking about $500,000. If you buy an SSL console, it's from here to the end of that wall long.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you're looking at $500,000 minimum. And, a lot of these guys are going to Clear Mountain's not, but they're going to in the box, what they call in the box. So everything's computer now, and using phones and whatever else. And, the secret there is that they know what this is going to translate like to the record. So it don't matter what they mix on. As long as they know what this equivalent's going to be when they burn it, get it mastered. But yeah, man, that you can spend as much or little as you want on audio equipment, and
hopefully none of our clients are listening to this particular episode, but Dolby Atmos and synthesis systems and all the home theater stuff is big right now, and you're doing, like 7.2.2 or, 11.2. There's all these different decimal points of how you can break out this audio. And so we've got these folks that are buying these systems and they're putting height and surround speakers in, and they're coming back to us and being like, I don't really hear anything coming from them. It's like, well, it's because
the programming doesn't have it.
Yeah, the programming for that particular movie that you're watching didn't have any height audio programmed for it.
Right.
So now you've got the Atmos remastered version of it, and all you're hearing is a piece of glass break in it. And so you've in fact spent $6,000 on a pair of speakers and an amplifier to hear a piece of glass one time in a movie. And so they're like, well, is there anything we can do about it? And I was like, well, I mean, I can turn up.
Yeah.
I can turn it up so that you'll hear it louder.
Yeah, you can wait 10 years till everything's mixed in that. I mean, I know we're getting off on a tangent, but since you're into this too, it's like, okay, we're still using technology. CDs I know are I think getting to be a thing of the past, but that is still the deliverable media for audio.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about something that's 40-year-old technology.
I hear they're coming back though more popular than ever as far as like for collectors that CDs are the supposable next big thing as far as audiophiles are concerned with collecting your music.
What's interesting is that I just recently watched a thing on YouTube that was trying to convince you that cassette was the way. That's the new way, because the digital audio has become so rigid that it's like so perfect all the time.
Right.
But on analog tape, there's flutter and there's a little, the tape stretches a little bit.
Yeah.
So it gives it that character. And it's funny, we're talking about being in the box. A lot of folks are recording stuff in the box, dumping it to tape, and then bringing it right back into the box just so that they can get some of that character of the tape back in. And there are tape plugins that you can do and all those other
that are pretty good. That's what I was telling you about the other day. I've got several of those plugins, like MPEG tape plugins, that kind of add that little bit of character.
Yeah.
And you can hear it if you add it and then take it off, but really you can't. It's there's so much out there now. The problem is that CDs probably very well will come back because everybody's been listening to MP3 files for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden they hear a CD, you're like, holy my God, this is so good because it's so much better.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to spend 60,000. I'm not going to spend 6,000. I might spend 600.
Mm-hmm.
But and I don't know where to put it. I don't know whether to put it over there on like the desk, or if you put it over there in the middle of everything, or, where your placements or whatever. But I don't really care if it's, I just want some good sound.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like, I don't have to be coming in here, oh, wait till you hear this, I don't care about that.
Well, you got enough, things to break
shit hanging around on the walls.
Yeah, that breaks up that sound.
Enough to break up parallel surfaces in here. Where it's going to sound pretty good. And, you're not, in order to hear, like he was saying, the difference in a $600 system and a $600,000 system, the room has to be perfect.
It has to be at least treated. And then and then I'll get you $1,000 set of headphones and a good headphone preamp, and you'll be like, oh, well, I just saved $59,000. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. A friend of mine years ago, he was showing me, he had some Shure earbuds, and he was talking to me about Shure like I'd never heard of it.
Right.
It's like, they're one of the premier microphone companies in the world. Oh, I didn't know you knew them. It's like, yeah, I know. They got 2 drivers each. Well, they're take a listen to this. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take a listen to it. I was like, yeah, this sounds good. I said, but you went out and bought a $2,000 set of earbuds so you can listen to MP3 files.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't think of it like that. I was like, huh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these microphones we use
Oh, yeah.
are, sure.
Yeah, and these, they've got a couple of items out there that are industry standards, and this is at the top of the list.
Yeah.
These are the SM7 is Joe Rogan uses one, so
Yeah.
that guy can afford any mic he wants to do his podcast with, and he's using these, and they're $400, which is a great deal.
I told you we were cool.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe Rogan, buddy. So. But audio equipment, man, is a lot of it is smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
it really is. It's especially in the home hi-fi section.
Yeah,
so, I mean, you can tell big, out in the world of sound reinforcement, which is what we do, or when we're playing out there, you can tell difference in cheap stuff and good stuff. But in hi-fi, man, you just go to like hi-fi.com sometimes, start reading the reviews. You're like, oh man, these are great. Then they're $100,000. Oh, okay.
I'll have a nervous wreck.
Oh my God.
I have a nervous breakdown.
Well, I was at, there was one time, this was years ago, we had an earthquake in Knoxville back in 2010 or somewhere in there. Enough to where it was felt and whatever. And I was at Statement Audio Video down there in Kingston Pike, which is next door to PF Chang's. And I was in there looking and talking to a guy. And they had a wall of Macintosh stuff. I'm talking about top to bottom, man. And that earthquake hit while I was there. And that whole thing, just like, I was like, the guy that was working there and I looked at that and I was like, we just about saw $1 million hit the ground just then.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah,
and this is when I tell Jamie that I work for Statement Home Theater.
Okay. Well,
okay.
I kind of figured you did, saying some of the stuff you did in Macintosh dealer and all that. And, and they did a great job. I know people years ago that have used them, and they're very good about going in there. Here's a commercial for you. They're very good about talking to even people they know that can't afford $100,000 system.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable staff there.
Yeah.
And welcoming, but that surround sound stuff, I've got a receiver. I bought a Pioneer Elite receiver years ago. It's a great piece, but it's a 9.2 system.
Mm-hmm.
And ask me how often that gets used. Never.
Yeah.
Because it's sitting in the corner, not even hooked up. I just turn the ball game on and listen to that's it.
Yeah. Well, I don't need it to be, again, I just want the most simplest, best sounding thing that I can get. I'm a baller on a budget, goddammit.
I hear you.
And I need to be able to listen to some records every now and then. Hey folks, if you're looking for a cool, eclectic place with an outside patio, plenty of UT sports games, cold beer, and live music on the weekends, then look no further than one of our homes away from home, Trailhead Beer Market, located at 1317 Island Home Avenue in South Knoxville, Tennessee. Trailhead is South Knoxville's first beer market, situated on the banks of the Tennessee River and in the backyard of the Urban Wilderness and Iams Nature Center. You can find more info on Facebook and Instagram about specials, live acts, and the goings-on, and be sure to tell them McGill and Jamie sent you, and have one more for the good guys. Or be able to throw, some new stuff that I've Shazammed or whatever onto the Bluetooth to be able to, instead of my Makita XRM 0098 job site
cube.
Yeah, cube. Which does fine. I have drank lots of beer and listened to lots of music through it, but But I'd like to have something a little nicer. I just bought the neighbor's house over here, and it's my old hippie neighbor. And back at the first of the pandemic, he got diagnosed with a rare melanoma cancer that was in his sinus cavities. Yeah, it was no bueno. And you're talking about a guy that he moved back home in 85 and hadn't left other than to go to work. And I had to get him to Vanderbilt and surgeries, back and forth and all this stuff. And he was he passed away when he was 70. He was a 70-year-old bachelor. And, but he's an audiophile. He was a videophile. He loved all that stuff. And, I've got probably 3,045s.
Wow.
I got 1,000 albums. There's videos from 85 to, I seen one over there the other day that was the 1960 something Olympics.
Wow.
On VHS, and I'm like, I want to go through a lot of that kind of stuff. And then I have stuff. He was a DJ back in the day, which is going to be a really fun night. And I think I'm going to do it every year on his birthday. I'm just going to put it, cause he loved to be the DJ.
Mm-hmm.
Cause you thought you knew stuff and you really didn't. Jimmy Warwick came up here one time and said, "You probably couldn't play me something I haven't ever heard before." You know how goofy and dumb statements Jimmy makes sometimes. And he's not a dumb fella whatsoever, but sometimes it can just come out. And Bill walked over and brought like 6 records and was like, "Did you ever hear this? Did you ever hear this? Did you ever hear this?"
No, Tom.
I don't even know who it is. And it's like, "Oh, this is Robin Trier played and blah, blah, blah. And this was so-and-so. And this is, J.J. Cale wrote and did the, and like, was just like, just one after another and just completely blowed him away, So all that being said, I think what I'm going to do on his birthday is I'm going to just put in his old DJ mixes.
Yeah.
Of him from being in the club, with him talking on it and everything else and spinning whatever tunes were happening at the time,
Yeah.
But I've got hundreds of video cassettes. I've got hundreds of audio cassettes, all the albums, CDs. I mean, he recorded everything, so, and like, there's a lot I know what to do with.
Sure.
And then there's some of it that's like, I mean, if you just think, if he's got stuff all the way back to 85 of just nothing but like vol stuff, baseball, football, basketball, there's like, shouldn't I start some kind of YouTube channel or something that could, you know what I mean? I mean, cause there's stuff on there that,
that possibly might not exist anywhere else.
That's what I'm saying.
Good.
I mean, it could. Yeah. I don't know. It may or it may not, but I don't know. So, when you come back, and we write that song, I'll take you into the.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and just go through, just to be like, just some kind of. I don't know what to do with it all.
It's a common thing that, like, we'll go in after a husband has died and this lady's called us up and be like, "Hey, come look at this stuff because I don't know what to do with any of it."
Yeah.
And she's just like, was it stuff worth something? Like, what should I be doing with it? Like, how do you take the archive of somebody's life? Like, and how do you preserve it and what to do with it? So it's always really interesting to like step into that time capsule and just, wow, this dude really loved audio, and you can see exactly when he bought all of the stuff. It's like, this dude definitely bought all this stuff in 1980.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's used it perfectly up till today.
And there's receivers and different stuff. I'm sure they all need work. I'm sure they all need something done to them. But, there's all different kinds of everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like.
So he got turntables up there? He's got to.
It's got one turntable. And it worked at one time. Now it's a belt drive. It's probably, but at one time, yes, he had 2 turntables and a microphone.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, he would slow things down and mix on the fly. I mean, like all of his live club mixes every one of them were done on turntables and with records, know. He would talk about loading in gear, and be like, when I go to play, I'd take 2 crates full of records and he worked at the record bar. He worked at, in Johnson City when he went to college and school. Yeah. And so there's just, I don't know if either one of you guys are familiar with the Midnight Rambler. Have you ever heard of that? He was a radio dude from back in the day. And it was from up at like WQOT or something like that. The one out of Johnson City, Tri-Cities. But yeah, he had a midnight radio show like every weekend. And it was the Midnight Rambler. And we drank Budweiser beer because it's Beechwood aged until it's right. And he would have like the intros would be people doing voices and written intros of, all this untrue shit about him. World renowned, in bad English and Australian accents. And then it just, that's right, it's time for the Rambler, and then right into AC/DC or something. And it's phenomenal. It's so fun.
His name was Mike James.
Okay.
A DJ at WQUT.
QUT.
Hard rock station in the Tri-Cities area.
Yeah, there you go.
Hosted a late night radio show from 1976 to 1983.
Well, I got a bunch of that shit on an audio cassette.
And this fact check has been brought to you by Wikipedia.
That's correct.
That's right. So I'd love to get somebody's opinions on some of that stuff because there's every collaboration or award show or music special or Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, all of that stuff where I remember when Bruce Springsteen played with Brian Setzer and then they had Aretha Franklin and Paul Schaefer was the band, or whatever. It's all of that kind of stuff. He's videoed it all and categorized it all. And it's just.
There's a true treasure up there somewhere.
Yeah. Somewhere, and it's just like I don't have the heart to. I threw so much stuff away, but there was so much. There was 9 tons. That was the dump bill.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's a 900 square foot house.
Wow.
So a ton every 100 square feet.
Jeez.
And this is the stuff that I just. Threw to the side, and then went through it again and got rid of other stuff, and then threw to the side.
Yeah.
And so I'm through about my second process of going through it. But at any rate, it's just crazy. I gotta figure out something to do with it, but there's tons of shit. So I guess I'm probably going to need some kind of, at some point, if we decide to save and or clip or piece any of that stuff, I'll need some kind of machine that that does those sorts of things. So you're the perfect one to talk to and ask about it.
We've got some of that stuff for sure.
And then I need somebody that'll do it all.
Yeah.
For real cheap.
Right. And there's interns at the university.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah. We just got to find them.
Yeah.
And convince them to become
what I was
the
thinking.
mascot.
It's just 11 miles from downtown.
Just 11 miles.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it ain't like you're going to Lenore City or something.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, that's a little further.
It is just a little further.
Just a little?
All right. A lot further.
I like the guy on the Nissan guy from Oak Ridge that always says it's just 10-minute drive. It's like, what is this asshole?
Yeah.
10 minutes. 10 minutes from anywhere. But we live in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. 10 minutes. Yeah. Who's Scott what?
Scott Gropp.
Gropp. Okay. All right. So you know this fella who will speak. Or
I've seen him once or twice.
Are aware.
I'm aware.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that we got a lot to be excited about with the Christmas show, and we got a lot of excited about
spectacular.
Damn, that's twice in one night. Holy cow. Yeah, damn it. All right, now I'm bummed. All right. But as well as Wednesday nights at the Jig and Reel with the songwriters deal, and then you said every other Tuesday or
every other Sunday at Status Dough.
Well, that's close.
Yeah, Tuesday. It ends in day.
Sunday, it's Status Dough with our good buddy Nick Horner.
Yeah.
Have you is your band got any social media presence?
Just a little bit. I got an Instagram, again, Lee Rod in the various states. I have a website that is just a placeholder currently.
Yeah.
Working on, it takes a while to build that media library, just getting pictures and.
Yeah.
I don't want any of it to be super staged. Like that's just not who I am. So just working on getting some show photos to put up and things like that. It takes a little bit.
Is there a place where you're posting upcoming shows?
Mostly on Instagram. Yeah. And then I don't do a ton on Facebook, but I'll throw it on there occasionally.
I was told only old people do Facebook anymore.
Matt Morlock said it.
Yeah.
To be precise.
Yeah.
Was it Matt or Kyle?
Kyle said Matt Morlock says
that's
Facebook is for old people.
Yeah. So.
Well, there you have it. I don't want to be an old person just yet. So.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. Let me know how that works.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll get back to me. Well, now you said at one time you had been doing a little bit of recording stuff with Brock, I guess it was.
Yeah, that's taken a little bit of a backseat to try to work more on the live performance side of things.
Yeah.
But
okay, well that's good though.
Yeah, and I needed some of that to be able to have the right language, honestly,
Yeah.
So as we roll into the colder months, I'll probably do a little more demo style recording and start working on some stuff to try to get some EP magic out there on the digital world.
Some kind of something.
Yeah.
We've been talking about putting out a record too.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a solo thing and I've not got it. I sold a bunch of them, but I don't have it out anywhere. Just me and the guitar.
Yeah.
Which is good. But some of those songs have taken so much life, and that was definitely one of the things and I'll ask you about this since we're touching on it now. But, we were talking about with Kyle is like, so when we were writing stuff with, say, like the Romeos or Refills or whatever, even the Uncles for that matter. I mean, or way back to, which I actually found a couple of old White Oak Flat CDs.
No.
Yeah, so we'll have to get those out and put some of those up from the bluegrass days when I was young and clean.
Yeah.
Like selling Bibles door to door.
Yeah, fresh faced.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now I'm just sweet faced. But at any rate, you know, I always found it like I had an idea of what I wanted something to sound like. I had an idea of what I had in my head, but I never wanted to pigeonhole anything because of all the creative talent that was around me, and where they might take something or go with something. And unless I was steadfast in a belief on, no, I really want this one to be this way,
Mm-hmm.
I never would. I didn't ever want to get in the way of that.
Yep.
Do you find that? Is that something, or is that something you're gaining on, you're learning, or
that's part of why
you're perceiving, or
that's part of why I put the recording away for
yeah,
now and worked on the live performance, because these songs that I was writing, I didn't really have a great idea where they were going. I just kind of wrote them, and then I take them into the band and like, all right, let's try to work out some arrangement here. And even in that, they've continued to grow.
right,
And so like the song can end up with legs of its own and turn into something that I never saw.
yeah,
And why record it as one thing and then perform it as another?
right,
So it makes sense to me to like flesh out these songs a little bit, let their input have some direction to it. And
Yeah.
then you can make a recording of it.
Well, and that's a good point. I think that's smart. If you know, I think that's smart because there's another thing you've probably noticed. I won't say you've learned or figured it out. I don't know if any of us have ever learned or figured anything out as far as that goes, but something you may have noticed is like, okay, so when I was playing at my most, let's say I was doing 125, 150 dates. Now that's removed from like bluegrass days because hell, we were doing 200 plus.
Mm-hmm.
But doing the singer-songwriter thing and also having, at one time I was fronting the Uncles, I was fronting the Romeos, I was fronting the Cat House Prophet stuff from, and plus doing solo stuff. So I noticed real quick that like something that should have been as easy as showing somebody a song or something that, okay, that was easy. And everybody was smart enough and quick enough to come on with it and get it. But then we'd go play it live and I noticed, oh hell, I may take off in the direction that I do when I play it by myself. So you do it two different ways when you have that, or I did, especially when you have the comfort of that backing band and or accompaniment that you wouldn't do if you were, and where sometimes about 60% of the time, if you were doing it by yourself, you get your breath right here.
Yep.
Well, you're hammering down and rolling through it, and you got the band and they're ready to go, and you just surprisingly put a spot in where you're going to get your breath now and they miss it.
Yeah.
It's not really their fault.
Right.
So have you noticed a lot of that?
Certainly.
Hence going back to the pre-recorded stuff of performances.
And if I'm not performing with the band, typically I'm doing a duo gig with Corey Kimbrough. And so he and I will do these songs one way, and then we'll try to go back and do them with the band. And we pick up little isms and breaths and pauses and all these things that we haven't done with the band, but we do the duo gigs differently. And so as soon as we bring them in, it's like, nope, this doesn't work. Sorry, that's my bad. Let me get back to doing it the other way, or, or no, let's change it and do it the way that we do it as a duo because it works better. And, and I've got, even on my originals, there's some spots where he and we can drop a beat and it's fine. And it's just so I can catch my breath. But when you've got a drummer who's locked in and trying to keep you going, you don't have that. You just got to keep moving. And so it throws off your timing a little bit.
Yeah, I noticed it a lot way back in the day with like harmony stuff. Because well, two ways. You got this little 3-piece band from Texas, that makes a lot of fucking racket, a lot of noise. You got this little 3-piece band from Canada that makes a lot of racket and a lot of noise and fills up so much space. Then you got this 5-piece band that doesn't fill up near the space, but sounds just as great. And then, so as you go on, you realize, that space is there to take. So that's why they do that.
Yeah.
That space is not there to take. That's why they don't do that. And then you start adding voices into the mix, and like 2-part harmony, you can get away with being kind of a shape singing. You can kind of get away with brother style harmonies and shape singing, to where everything don't have to be just, you can almost pretend like you got a fretboard for your throat. You know what I mean? Like your instrument. But then you add that third piece in it, and it's like, oh, no. You can't sing that like that anymore. It's got to be, you got to sing it this way, because they don't.
Because now you're rubbing the wrong way.
Yeah, they don't marry. Yeah. They don't go together. So
you got 2 other people guessing what you're going to do next instead of one.
Yeah, for sure.
It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, that's not hard without if you skip all the long division.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
There it is.
It's real easy to do without long division. I think, from knowing you and knowing your love for it, that you're gonna continue to do. You're gonna make educated guesses and decisions, and you'll make the right ones, and you'll figure out what those are that best suit you and help you get to that end product or result the best. And just stick with it. I know you came out and played back in August at the little birthday soiree we had.
Yeah.
And I told you that night, and I meant it, that you just, every time I hear you, you continue to get better. And I really like it. I haven't seen a complete whole full band thing yet. But I really like it when it's you and the guitar, because I can see and hear your growth in it.
Yeah.
And I can see that you're, each time you're getting more and more comfortable. So I wish you continued success in that.
I appreciate that. And your encouragement has been great. As someone that I've always respected in the music community, to get that feedback that I'm getting better each time means a lot. That's my only goal. Yeah. Go out there each time, do it a little bit better.
Hey man, if I can just be that much better tomorrow than I was today.
Yeah.
Shit, I'm doing better than 75% of the world's population.
Shit, 99. 85's low.
All right, 99, I'll take it.
He's taking it.
I thought 75 I'd get in the Hall of Fame like that, but 99, fuck yeah, I'm on it. I was going baseball numbers here.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 out of 4. I was thinking 2.
3 out of 10, you're a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, that's it.
30%.
But well, listen. Now we got all that introduction and some of that stuff that we either did or didn't know out of the way. Did you have a good time?
I've had a great time.
Would you like to come back?
I'd love to come back.
All right.
Now that I know the secret handshake.
Well, it may change.
Oh, shit.
Rolls over at the beginning of the year.
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll make a honey hole.
Yeah.
Well, you're welcome here anytime. We'll try to sure up a time and an effort to come back. We got to write that song.
We got to write that song.
I got to get busy. Sounds like you done got your part.
Well, I got a part.
You're going to do original for the Christmas Spectacular?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what we've been talking about, and it's. I mean, we're getting close.
Yeah.
That's with the T.
Yeah,
I said
with
it
the
right.
T.
You're
Yeah.
going to do 2 songs, so you're going to do a cover too, right?
Yeah. I'll have to work on what I'm going to do for that second one.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's November, basically.
Oh, I know.
Oh, Lord.
I need no help in knowing how far behind I am.
You so far behind, you're about to catch up with yourself?
Oh, shit. I was so far behind, I got marked absent. I don't know if that even makes sense.
I don't know if it did or not,
I'm
but
going
I got
with
it.
I'm going with
Yeah.
it. Rodney, I love you.
Love you too, Mike.
Thanks for being here. Jamie, you want to do another one?
Absolutely. I know the handshake.
All right. Well, if you're out there and you know folks that like real conversation and oh, you know what? We got to do this real quick. I forgot.
Our good news.
Our good news. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck.
We've been trying to do a good news presentation, if you will.
And I had it.
Okay.
because there's so much bad news.
I'm with you.
And
And in the name, I mean, in the immortal words of Anne Murray, couldn't we use a little good news today?
Yeah.
So, real quick, I almost forgot this. Starbucks workers raised over $40,000 for beloved barista after her car was burglarized and stolen. Starbucks supervisor, I don't know why I cannot say that word. A Starbucks supervisor is getting ready to buy a new set of wheels thanks to the loving concern of her co-workers and an entire college campus. Karen Collinsworth, 65, has been living near the Marshall University campus in Huntington, West Virginia for decades. And for much of that time, she's been working at Starbucks, supervising a youthful staff while serving students and faculty. I've been here since 1976. I fell in love with Huntington. I'm from outside of Columbus, Ohio. And I've been in the food industry since 1978, and it's my passion. I've loved waiting tables. I just do. Your customer service develops, and you just want to please people. Well, she'll break out of that sooner or later, hopefully. Oh, wait a minute. This is good news. Sorry.
Yeah, this is good news. Yeah.
So for Collinsworth, making people happy has become her signature trait, according to her fellow Starbucks employers. Collinsworth's reputation for kindness might explain why an entire campus full of students and faculty came to her aid when they heard that she was having trouble and her 2004 Kia had been burglarized and stolen. She'd been having a lot of problems with the car in the past and yada, yada, yada. She actually has had, both coworkers say that in the past 6 months, Collinsworth's car trouble has ramped up big time. She's had tons and tons of problems with the vehicle. And then one day she came into work and she was like, someone stole my car last night. Man, thieves aren't smart, evidently. But at any rate, she was afraid, wondering what she was going to do. She can't be driving this car anymore. And the kids from the employees from the college campus of the Starbucks said, we all just kind of talked about it and floated around the idea of starting a fundraiser for her. Gray says, after work, when I got back to my dorm, I decided to just make it because I figured even if I couldn't raise her that much money, any kind of money or any amount of love would be help. It was just kind of like a spur of the moment thing. And so the GoFundMe, We Love You, Karen, was started to help her buy a working car and ensure she wouldn't have to worry about her monthly bills. And to date, the fundraiser has raised over $40,000 for Collinsworth. The original goal was $10,000, and her coworkers all shared the fundraiser on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, and of course in the Starbucks itself. Circulated pretty quickly. That way, any donations were nearly immediate, and it was just amazing to see honesty. Of course, she was taken back from everything. There are big donations, and the highest being a $5,000 donation from the Marshall University president, Brad Smith, but most of the more than 1,200 donations were much smaller. I know these kids love me, and that makes my life worthwhile, Collinsworth says. They didn't have to do something for me like this, but it's just enough knowing that I am so cared about. So there you go, kids. Do something nice. Help somebody out. Anybody can be a dickhead. Anybody can be an asshole. It takes somebody special not to be that kind of person. So if you want to do one again, Rodney would like to come back. We'd love to have you. Folks, be kind. Love one another. We'll see you next time. And here's a toast. One more for the good guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.